Over 2,000 earthquakes in just one day. So what is going on at the Canary Islands, Tenerife, that dangerous volcano, Mount Teide? And now the questions are rising and people are once again, because this is a new level of escalation now. We've had earthquake swarms in the past few weeks where we were like, is this still normal? Why is the volcanic status on Tenerife still green? We've heard in previous videos that even residents said, is this a cover-up for tourism, for property values, whatever? So this is really the part that people cannot understand, and we've had that in local news. And yeah, we're asking the questions. Guys, this is intense. Under this island there, the volcano has just produced, how we can call it, thousands of signals. I need to tell you this before we look at the data of the volcano more closely, because this is a local that is on the island, Volcanoes and Science Today. What they have just posted today, that's alarming. So you need to know that. They just posted this, and I'm telling you what it was. They're saying, this is a disgrace. INVOLCAN, on one hand, says there have been 4,500 earthquakes that have been recorded, but it locates on the map only 516 in the GUAYOTA report. That is the official report. The IGN says it has recorded more than 2,000 events. That's another agency, but has located just over 200 events on the map. And I've noticed this in the past. There's way more events, but they don't show up on the earthquake map as dot. For both of those agencies, they say everything is normal, aka green, because they are low magnitude earthquakes. And they're saying, I'm reading this to you, is the volcano warning us? What more do they want? Yellow alert now. We do want yellow alert. And if it continues like this, soon we will have to ask directly for orange, because we will have very clear eruptive or unrest precursors, such as LPs or hybrids, which are already happening, which are precursor signals indicating that the system is preparing for an eruption. And then they say, quote, we are running out of time to react. But today I'm going to focus on something beyond the earthquakes, the deformation, and the gases. An eruption involves many more things that we're not paying attention to. And here it becomes very, very interesting, because this is not only valid here for the Canary Islands, we could say that for Naples as well. They say, they're quoting a local geologist, preparation is the most important thing before, during, and after the volcano. It is not only the eruption itself, it is the preceding earthquakes which have caused the most death in the Canary Islands. Interesting. It is the eruptions themselves, of course, with lava flows, ash, gases, landslides and collapses, sonic booms, lightning, and other phenomena. And then there is the post-eruptive activity. So they do compare it. In El Hierro, they had strong swarms for more than 2 years. In La Palma, it was not just the volcano, it was the people. We are not prepared. Another quote, we talk too much about earthquakes and too little about what I understand as true volcanic risk prevention. We read news about swarms, ground deformation, gas emissions. In Tenerife, where anomalous geological activity has been ongoing for approximately a decade, public interest is logical. Of course, if you live there, people want to know whether there will be an eruption and when it will occur. However, those questions, while important, should not dominate the debate in islands where we do know the volcanoes represent a risk that sooner or later manifests as eruptions. It's going to happen, something that human beings cannot avoid or stop. So, but here it comes. We therefore forget to prepare for the aftermath. ash, soil, industry, communications, and reconstruction after implacable blow from nature. If we keep reducing volcanic risk only to the possibility of an eruption, we will fail badly into the effect of the boy who cried wolf. Every seismic swarm will generate headlines, speculation, and social fatigue, while real preparation remains pending. So they're saying, and now we come to the critical point, #tourism. After witnessing both the Tajogaite eruption and the post-volcanic period in the Valle de Adriandane up close, I see that the La Palma experience, and that was really bad. I mean, La Palma has not changed as much as it should have. Our way of understanding this natural risk inherent to these islands. And now they're talking about the swarm that is going on. This gets more intense, guys. Stay with me. They're saying the volcano is clearly warning us and we are not listening. We have been warned that it is preparing more seriously than ever. The activity like this has never been recorded before. The alert level of green, they call it traffic light, it's reckless because it's preventing people from learning what they need to learn and becoming aware that this time it is serious. After almost a decade of warnings, it finally seems to be taking firmer steps, the volcano. They're thinking we are at step 3, but we're already very close to step 4. And if it does not stop or if it intensifies again, we will continue climbing towards the maximum, which is 10. And here it comes. Regarding the location of events, the IGN is tweaking and it's cosmetically handling. And that is disgusting. These are local words. They put them all into one ball under Las Cañadas, as if sweeping dirt under the rug. What do they mean? They say without showing all the earthquakes that exist around the caldera of Mount Teide, and they do exist, and they are incorrectly redirected. Wow, that's intense. And then they say the same goes for handling the depth. They are very deep and they are very shallow events. Yeah, we don't hear much about the deep events because deep down, this is where the magma chamber is, right? So they say you cannot do science with biased, manipulated, and distorted data. I suppose someone will review all of this later and we will be amazed. So then they mention INVOLCAN. It's more credible with its seismic data, having located, 516 in the latest report, although the GUAYOTA report is being touched from all sides, and it is becoming less and less credible, especially regarding deformation, gases, and energy. And deformation is important because if we have rising deformation, that means magma is coming up. So it seems they're not trusting that agency as much anymore. And here comes an explanation for that. I understand that if they step out of line or alarm too much, the politicians they depend on will cut their funding and throw them out. Their job is to calm the disaster created by the IGN. So they keep them starved, but do not let them die, so that they remain obedient and say what they are told to say with a little more professionalism. We have heard that wording before in other volcanoes, #Campiflegre in Naples. So is this the case? So they further say, this does not work. The volcanic monitoring agencies are dedicating themselves to things that are not what the society, the locals, is asking for, which is clear, truthful, and accessible information for everyone, for ordinary citizens, amateurs, or scientists. And here they say, they call out, we need an independent volcanological observatory right now, one that is funded by the state and not controlled by politicians like the HVO in Hawaii or the IMO in Iceland. This is what they want. The worst of all this is that there are no evacuation plans. There are no evacuation routes. There are no evacuation centers. Nobody knows anything, and nobody is thinking about what to do when it happens. Boof, that is really intense. And then they further say, quote, I'm fed up with the clashes between institutions, egos, and power struggles while leaving citizens abandoned. So, and then, quote, one question, if a lava flow goes towards Loro Park, will the animals be roasted and then buried by the lava flow, or will they be evacuated? Evacuating the orcas is not so easy. Wow. And then here it comes, quote, now I ask myself, with 1 million tourists, how do we get them out without using the airports and with roads cut by lava flows, blocked by traffic jams, or closed by landslides? My God, this will be every man for himself. And now he is hinting towards the officials. I mean, this is drastic, guys. And he says, keep looking the other way. The volcano has the final word, and I assure you that when it speaks, it does not listen to reason. It does what a volcano has to do. Greetings and good night. Already early morning. What a day I've had. Good night if the volcano lets you. Much encouragement to all Canarians. Wow. And then he posted a report on the seismic volcanic activity in Tenerife that we definitely have to discuss right now, because this is the official report. And keep in mind what you just heard. But now Spain, Canary Island, beautiful vacation spot, beautiful vacation destinations. I've been on each island. I really like it, but they're volcanic. And we've also remembered what La Palma did, right? So that's why Mount Teide, active, powerful volcano. This is not one strange earthquake that we're talking about. This is not the volcanoes having a bad day. This is not just a normal swarm. This is a repeated pulse, how we would say, with a volcano. This is a deep volcanic system that is switching on again. And I mean, we know what's down there. That's magma. So if we feel that trembling, so many small tremors, right? Of course, it's all that stuff. It's what keeps tourists driving to come towards Teide. That's why they Mount Teide National Park. That's why hotels stay full while the official alert stays calm. So one question is pressing. It's getting louder. Not only the volcano's getting louder, and that's getting louder across Tenerife. Are they downplaying the risk? And I'm showing you what's going on right now. You see the GUAYOTA report here. This is basically the image that starts the problem. So more than 1,200 earthquakes in 1 week under the Teide system. And beside it, the volcanic traffic light still says green. We have way more earthquakes, but this is when that report was made. That was the current status quo. And don't get me wrong, these earthquakes don't mean, oh, eruptions coming tomorrow. No. But this also does not look like nothing already. And now the situation has escalated again. So INVOLCAN says the latest swarm reached around 2,000 hybrid events with peaks of hundreds of earthquakes per hour. So hybrid event, you might want to ask. These are important because they're just not signaling the normal cracking of a rock underground. What they tell us, they say this is fluid movement inside a volcanic system. That's what they're telling us. And here comes the official explanation. They're using careful language. They're saying this is fluid circulation at depth, possibly linked to hydrothermal volatiles of magmatic origin. This sounds really nice, don't you think? I love it when they word it like this, right? It's like we monitor it on a daily basis, right? That doesn't guarantee you safety. We monitor it until Shizzy hits the fizzy, and then they're like, well, yeah, we saw it. Now it's like, woof. And so the same thing is there's currently no indication for an eruption when they say something like that. Define currently, today, this hour, this week, the next 10 years. So fluid circulation at depth, possibly linked to hydrothermal volatiles of magmatic origin underneath a volcano. When you hear that sentence, right? Sounds very calming, very bureaucratic, but guys, it wasn't me if I would not try to translate that into normal words. So here's my version. So it means this: something hot, really hot, pressurized, and volcanic is moving below Teide and is creating that escalating rumble. So look at the energy graph here. I mean, this is official data. This is what you need to look at, right? So yeah, this is not one giant quake, but this is not how volcanoes work. Look at the curve. Look at the buildup, the repeated release of energy. So maybe the Teide volcano, Tenerife, has some kind of cap rock layer, a rock seal below the island. That's a lid on a pressure cooker. Right in Campi Flegrei, we know the cap rock layer since the 1980s has been weakened significantly. It has only a third or even less of its strength left. That's why we're so cautious there right now. So this lid, a barrier, a cap that's still holding the pressure down until it can't anymore. So that's why we do not have an visible eruption. It keeps the lid on. But that's why everyone's so worried, because, okay, if the seal is holding, then something's pressing against it, obviously. And every new swarm is then raising the same question in us. How much pressure can this lid take until she's hitting the fizzy, right? If we look at the IGN earthquake map, the earthquakes are clustering around the volcanic heart of Tenerife, near Las Cañadas, the Teide, Vilaflor, Guía de Isora, and nearby zones. Yes, most of these earthquakes are small. That is basically the comfort that the officials are using somewhat. But guys, these earthquakes, I tell you, they're not meaningless. And that's the counter argument that we're hearing. And it's getting louder, especially in the last few weeks. Small earthquakes become important when they repeat, basically in the same volcanic system. Teide, they do this right now. Similar depth with similar signal types during a year where already the hybrid swarms are increasing. So this is why the word normal starts to feel, I don't know how to describe it, too small to describe what's going on. Same like maybe green, all good. Let's have a look at this. This is a full day seismogram. This is the volcano's heartbeat, if you want to say that. That's not lava, that's not an explosion, that's not panic, but what it is, and that's a fact, it's repeated pulses through the day. You can see it. So also here, it's not the danger that this image here proves an eruption. It does not. No, it does not. The danger is, I'll tell you this, is that the instruments are clearly recording unrest. I don't think we can dispute this. But the public message at the same time sounds like this is normal life. This is everyday life. Is it? Doesn't look like it. And that's why. And at that point, this is where the public trust begins to crack. And especially locals are like, you gotta be kidding me, right? Tourists probably, they don't know, right? They don't follow this. They're not freaks like us. They're just like, many of them maybe don't even know, right? They're going into their beach chair, have a cocktail, enjoy their vacation. Maybe that's the better way to do it, right? But 1 hour signal. Let's zoom in, let's have a look. Like 1 hour, within 1 hour, several pulses. So one signal lighting up the frequency panel. This is what people mean when they're saying Tenerife is not quiet. Of course, the overall public may not feel that signal in their beach chairs. I know. Tourists, right? They may not notice anything. But these instruments, they do. And that needs to be interpreted because that's the volcano telling us something. So once the instruments keep seeing activity while the alert stays green, and we're having this discussion in Naples in Italy with Campi Flegrei that is still on now dark yellow. So they invented a second yellow so that they wouldn't have to go to orange. And then we have light orange and dark orange. But that's a different story, right? I'm not saying that there is a cover-up, but again, instruments are telling us something's going on. Alert stays green. Let's stay calm. People begin asking whether green is a scientific decision. Is this a scientific decision? Or is this a political comfort blanket? Let's have a look at the second seismogram, spectrogram. This does not show like confirmed eruption tremor. I want to make that clear. This does not show that magma is breaking through the surface. It does not mean Teide is going to erupt tomorrow, but it does show something. It shows basically, I would call it the uneasy middle stage. What do I mean with this? This is enough activity to worry observers like us and locals that know their island and they know their volcano. Obviously, it seems that it's not enough activity to force the officials into a higher alert. Is it, right? That's a little bit the question here in the room. So the middle stage that I mentioned, that middle stage is basically where the volcano, can we say, volcano communication becomes dangerous because it's a fine line. Too much alarm causes panic. Of course, you don't want that if it's not necessary. But too much calm, on the other hand, destroys the trust. And Tenerife is in tourist season, so that's important, right? I know, I fully understand that. What if it were to switch from green to yellow? What would that mean for tourism and everything? That would not mean evacuation of the island. It would not mean eruption imminent, but definitely it would change the headlines, right? Would you book your vacation with like, where should I go? Maybe Spain, maybe Canary Island. Oh, Tenerife that just went from green to yellow. Maybe we go somewhere else, right? Santorini, maybe, and then there is stuff going on, right? Again, most of them don't know about that. But definitely, I think that some tourists at least would ask questions. And of course, the hotels would get a little nervous if that were to happen. Travel companies would also get nervous, right? Cancellations, who's paying for that? Travel insurances. And residents probably would ask, well, why were we not warned sooner? And again, this is why people are comparing the messaging to Campi Flegrei in Italy. It's not because Tenerife and Campi Flegrei are the same volcano. Campi Flegrei is way more dangerous. They're not. But both places, basically, we can say they have kind of the same problem. They do have this active unrest. They do have public fear. They do have enormous economic pressure. Tenerife probably even more than Campi Flegrei, Naples, right? Because Tenerife is basically, what economy do they have? Naples also not too much. Tourism is important. So officials are trying to keep the people calm without losing control of the story. I think that's what they're trying. But let's have a look at this image here, because that, I think, is the contradiction in this story. Thousands of, let's call them signals, tiny, tiny earthquakes, green alert, hybrid swarms, as we like to call them, green alert. Fluid movement at depth, green alert. Yeah, no confirmed eruption, green alert. And that's the entire debate that we're having. Officials, yeah, they may be right that there's no short-term eruption danger. But residents, they're also right to ask why this still looks so normal on paper. Because the volcano is obviously not behaving like some dead piece of mountain. It's behaving like a system under quite a bit of pressure with like an escalating tendency. So when we see this today, we don't need to worry that it will erupt today. What would make them finally change the alert? Do we need a bigger earthquake? Do we need an even shallower swarm? Do we need more ground deformation, a gas spike, volcanic tremor? And the problem is, if those signs appear quickly, and they can with a volcano, people will ask, why did the alert stay green for so long? Why didn't we get in a more prepared stage? That's the fear, not the eruption today. It's a late warning tomorrow. That is what people are worried about, right? So Tenerife is not erupting right now, but it is escalating. That's the message that I want to give you. And if we're dealing with tourist season, that escalation makes the silence around the risk feel a little louder than even the earthquakes. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. And guys, check this out. Austria, Vienna, 4.6. This is crazy. People were Vienna at night. They woke up in their sleep. People were shaking. They said, my bed was shaking. I was falling out of bed. Do you imagine cracked walls in Austria? So check it out, guys. It's very, very interesting. I see you there in a second. Bye-bye.